Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to talk to you guys a little bit about vegans and protein intake. Seems to be a hot topic in my video comments lately. So let me put on my +5 head of weaponsmithing, work on skilling up my crafting a little bit, and let's talk about this. Alright, vegans and protein intake. This isn't going to be an anti-vegan video. You know what, if someone wants to be a vegan, that's their personal ethical choice, and they're not inflicting their will on the rest of us. Hey, that's fine. More power to them. That's their right. I'm not going to knock that. I am a believer in freedom. Now, as far as the scientific claims, that's the only time I'm going to bash them when they come up with stupid-ass, biased, cherry-pick science. So, on to the point of protein and vegan. Seems to be a couple different schools of thoughts people always debate here. And I had someone say in my comments, well, when you look at it this way, most vegans have no trouble getting 130 grams of protein. Only a stupid vegan is going to fail to get enough protein to gain muscle, someone who lifts weights. Valid point. Valid point, and I agree with that. You actually have to be stupid as any person. I mean, honestly, you have to be ignorant or be intentionally going out of your way to avoid protein to not get enough protein to gain muscle. And it's because the requirements are lower than what the supplement industry has told you. There are plenty of sports dietitians who train NFL athletes and Olympic athletes and everyone else who don't believe in this 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight thing. I always tell people it's always been recommended and seems to work just fine for top level athletes to gain muscle. 1 to 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. That means if you weigh 220 pounds, that's 100 kilos, 100 to 160 grams of protein should be more than adequate. Well, not more than adequate, right in the adequate range for you to gain muscle. You shouldn't need more than that. That's because people need to understand that even if you're gaining muscle at the highest rates possible, you're only using 2 or 3 grams of protein a day to build muscle. You really are. That's it. And anyone should be able to do the math on that. A pound of muscle isn't a pound of protein. All right, a pound of muscle tissue, which most of you'd be lucky to build that in a month, has about 110 to 120 grams of protein. 120 at the most. 120 grams of protein spread out over a month. That's what, 4 grams? 4 grams a day? That's not very much extra protein to consume. It should just be common sense at this point. And we know from different studies out there, ultra protein overfeeding, where people start hitting these really high numbers, 200, 300 grams of protein, doesn't put any more muscle on anyone. But the supplement companies would have you believe otherwise. They'd have you believe otherwise, that you need enormous amounts. So when you look at that objectively, it really isn't difficult to do that. You actually have to be eating low protein foods. Now that being said, that's for normal people. The average person who eats an omnivorous diet, hitting those numbers shouldn't be hard. I mean, if you weigh 170 pounds, that isn't very much protein. If you're 170 pounds trying to gain muscle, that's what? Less than 80 kilos? Even if you plug yourself in at 80 kilos, that's something like 80 to 140 grams of protein. You guys telling me you can't do that? Well, here's the thing. Vegans can do that consuming beans and pasta. Beans and pasta. Hell, 2,000 calories of beans and pasta puts them in that range. Done. They eat whatever they want after that. I mean, it's not really a problem as long as you're eating high protein foods. I don't care, beans, throw in some tempeh, soy, whatever they want to do. It just isn't difficult, particularly when if they add beans to every meal. It's very, very easy to hit 100 plus grams of protein. It's just not difficult. It really isn't. And people are going to argue about the bioavailability of protein. Well, you know, you only absorb a certain percentage of this, and it doesn't have complete amino acids. Where are you guys getting that bullshit? Yeah, you absorb less. That is true. High fiber foods, you absorb a little less protein. But when you go pull the amino acid scores, you look at beef or chicken, those actually aren't as complete of proteins, if that's the term you want to use. That's a nonsense term. Let's talk about the amino acid ratios that you want to be ideal in the human body. Those are lower than beans are in some cases. That's lower than a lot of vegetable proteins. Now rice is pretty low on there, but no one's using rice as a protein source. They are, but there's not much in it, and that can be balanced out with things like beans. But it's a higher quality amino acid content in a lot of these vegetables than some meats. You absorb less of them. That is true, but it balances out in the end. But even then, That's why you have a range. That's why we don't say, oh, you should eat X amount of protein like these stupid ass bodybuilding magazines tell you. Eat 1 gram per pound of body weight. Oh, how convenient. Instead of giving you a range. That range doesn't exist because some people need 160 and some people need 100. That range exists because the bioavailability and quality of protein varies. That's why we have a range. Does that make more sense now? That range is to account for the fact that some people might be eating a really low bioavailable protein whose weighs 220. They're probably going to want to be closer to 150, 160, but if they eat all really high quality protein sources with a really good amino acid profile, they can eat close to 100 grams. But most people eat a mixture. So being near the middle of the range is probably going to be ideal for most people. And I'm not saying you can't eat more protein than that if you just enjoy high protein foods. You want the extra satiety of being full, okay, fine, no problem. But that's your range to gain muscle. That's what you need to gain muscle. And it's just not that hard to hit. The reality is, though, the magazines have lied to you. Then you got vegans on the other extreme who lie about it. I mean, I'm going to be honest, a banana girl, she gets up and says protein should be your least concern because you don't need much of it. She is right. Protein shouldn't be a big concern because most people don't have problems eating 100 plus grams of protein a day who are eating 2,500 calories or more who are physically active. It's not difficult. It's when you have jackasses like her who spout complete lies and bullshit that protein doesn't matter at all, that you're going to gain muscle on 50 grams of protein a day. Bullshit. That's going to be extremely difficult. Or even worse, that excess protein converts to body fat. Really, plenty of studies have confirmed that it doesn't. Excess protein doesn't convert to body fat. Excess fat that you eat converts to fat at the most rate. But the argument could be if you're eating insane amounts of protein, you're eating insane amounts of extra calories, there's going to be extra amounts of fat in there. And if you're oxidizing protein for fuel and burning all your carbs for fuel, the fat you eat gets stored. If you're in a surplus. But if you're not in a caloric surplus, you're not going to gain fat. I don't care what you eat. It's just that when calories start getting high, more and more fat that you eat gets stored. And that's the problem. That's the concern. But, you know, these people who say things like protein can be stored as body fat, that's fucking just about biologically impossible. It's almost statistically impossible for any amount of protein that you eat to convert to body fat. Sure, you could do it. It is possible. Meaning if someone were to sit around consuming 5,000 calories of protein shakes every day with minimal carbs, minimal fat, yes, they will reach a point where the protein could, in theory, be converted to enough excess glucose, and then you'd see de novo lipogenesis because your fat's too low and your calories have been too high for too long. Let's say you did this for 4 or 5 days straight. Yes, your body would start storing protein as fat. But you almost have to create a false condition to do that. Like you're talking about someone sitting around consuming 1,000 plus grams of protein in liquid form every day. That's pretty much what you would have to do to store protein as body fat. It can be done. So when I say it's almost fucking impossible, it is, because who is going to pull that off? I mean, have you ever heard of anyone doing something so fucking stupid? To sit around drinking nothing but protein shakes till you get over 1,000 or 1,200 or 1,500 grams of protein a day? That's how that would happen. And it's possible, but for someone to act like it's something that's ever going to happen in the real world, for people who are intentionally creating a scenario to force it to happen, an extremely uncomfortable, crappy scenario, because you're going to feel like shit doing that. And you're probably going to have diarrhea all the time from all those protein shakes. So you have to create almost an insane fucking scenario for it to happen, and these people will spout it as if it's fact. And this is the problem you run into with some vegans out there. There are some vegans who understand nutrition. They're smart. They know how to balance their meals. You got plenty of those out there. But then you have these fucking nut jobs like Freely, who tells people that excess protein gets stored as body fat. And that you don't need hardly any protein to gain muscle mass. Complete bullshit. Not supported by science. She's just as bad and just as fucking moronic with what she's saying is the protein powder companies and bodybuilding magazines telling you you need 200 or 300 grams of protein a day to build muscle mass. They're both equally fucking insane. Both groups should be ignored. These are both extreme groups with extreme ideas that aren't based in reality. Alright guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.